working with business and labor.
Today, President Biden laying out his plan to fight the coronavirus this winter, specifically the new variant Omicron, and the transportation mask mandate extended through March. President Biden highlighting actions to strengthen our nation's supply chains as concerns grow that the Omicron variant may worsen the ongoing global crisis. And cyber attacks are on the rise. Ransomware attack on Planned Parenthood exposes 400,000 patients' personal data. This comes as suspected Chinese hackers breach more U.S. defense and tech firms. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Now that Omicron has hit the U.S., President Biden laid out his plan to tackle it. Boosters are in the big push and the CDC just strengthened its recommendation from something those over 18 may get to something they should get. How vaccines will fare against Omicron remains to be seen, but the federal government is working with drug makers in case vaccine recommendations need to be updated. With travel, the U.S. has imposed restrictions on 8 countries. For other countries, officials have agreed to shorten the windows for passengers to get tested before flying to the U.S. And for U.S. travelers, the mask requirement for people using mass transit will be extended through March. The mandate requires travelers to wear masks on airplanes, buses, trains, and boats, and in airports and other transportation hubs. Biden first signed the order requiring masks for travelers shortly after taking office in January. In August, the Transportation Security Administration extended it through mid-January 2022. The goal was to minimize the spread of COVID on public transportation because of concerns at the time over the Delta variant. And this latest extension comes after the first confirmed case of the Omicron variant in the U.S. was identified in California on Monday. And now, what about the supply chain? The White House taking action to strengthen the nation's supply chains.
We're heading into a holiday season on very strong shape. It's not because of luck.
Biden highlighting his administration's work to move goods more quickly.
By working with business and labor, my administration has been able to handle the huge surge in goods moving through some of our biggest ports.
On Wednesday, Biden touting his decision back in October to allow West Coast ports to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to reduce congestion. Biden also praised the move by private sector port operators to eliminate fees for truck drivers picking up containers at night or on weekends, and allowing truckers to drive more hours when they're transporting gas, food, and medical supplies. Biden says over the last month, containers were left sitting on docks over 8 days, but that's changing.
Now it's down by 40%, which means they're heading to shelves and stores more quickly.
This comes as the White House waits to learn more about the new Omicron variant and whether it could pose a threat to the nation's economic recovery. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo says Omicron could worsen a nationwide worker shortage.
It's too soon to tell, way too soon to tell. But I do worry because we know people are afraid to go to work.
But Biden is staying positive, saying several leading retailers are telling him they are seeing progress.
The CEOs I met with this week reported that their inventories are up, shelves are well stocked, and they're ready to meet the consumer demand for the holidays.
And the CEO of Mattel says global supply chain issues won't stop children from getting toys this holiday season.
We are seeing very strong demand for product. We are growing strongly, and we are on track to achieve our highest full-year growth rate in decades. Our product is resonating with consumers at levels we have not seen in years. And we are doing really, really good methodical work in making sure that we have the right product at the right time on shelves for Christmas.
Biden also outlined his administration's work to keep costs low, saying that last week he announced the largest ever release from the United States Strategic Petroleum Reserve to increase the supply of oil and help bring down gas prices. And he says he is bringing together other nations to contribute to finding a solution. And according to a new Fed report released on Wednesday, rising inflation, labor shortages, and supply chain disruptions are holding back economic growth. The Fed's Beige book report collects data from the central bank's 12 districts. It found there has been an increase in consumer spending, but labor and material shortages have restricted economic growth to a modest to moderate pace in most of the central bank's 12 districts. Although there was strong demand and outlook for overall activity remained positive, some districts noted uncertainty about when supply chain and labor supply challenges would ease. In general, the outlook was mostly positive in the report. Regarding inflation, price hikes have been reported to be widespread across sectors of the economy. There was a hike in costs of raw materials, but businesses have, till now, managed to offset some of the costs because of strong demand. But some firms interviewed for the report could not hike prices due to contractual obligations. And the report found there was a modest to strong growth in employment, but businesses generally found it hard to hire and retain workers. Supply of labor was primarily constrained by COVID-19 safety concerns, childcare, and retirement benefits. Federal vaccine mandates have affected employment numbers, especially in industries like healthcare. Companies have resorted to raising wages and improving benefits in order to retain staff. And effects of COVID-19's latest variant Omicron have not been featured in the report. And now, speaking of inflation, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is backtracking on some of his previous comments about inflation. During the COVID recovery, he has maintained that price hikes were temporary and not that high. Powell testified before the House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday.
Is it your view, sir, that these price increases still aren't, quote, particularly large or persistent?
No, that is no longer my view. Transitory to us means that this episode, however lengthy it is, will not leave a persistent, long-run string of high inflation behind it. And the problem, our whole role that we play, it really revolves around having clear communication. When you have a word that means different things to different people, we just need to move on and find a better way to explain ourselves. And most forecasters still do think, overwhelmingly believe that inflation will come down significantly in the second half of next year. But as I've said, the risks of higher inflation have moved up.
The Federal Reserve predicts inflation will decrease as supply chain problems are gradually resolved. And while the holidays see a rise in consumer buying, there's also a rise in hacking. A ransomware attack on Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles has exposed the personal data of nearly 500,000 patients. The healthcare provider said it happened in October. According to a breach notification the organization sent to victims, an unidentified perpetrator stole documents that contained sensitive information on some patients, like insurance information, their diagnosis, procedure, or prescription. A spokesperson for Planned Parenthood Los Angeles said there is no evidence that it was a targeted attack or that the stolen information has been used for fraudulent purposes. This comes as hackers have breached more U.S. defense and technology companies, and one group says it looks like the work of hackers from China. In November, cybersecurity researchers at Palo Alto Networks revealed one U.S. organization was hacked. Now, they say the breach includes at least 5 victims in the U.S. Palo Alto Networks says the hackers stole passwords to gain long-term access to these organizations' networks and warned more breaches are likely coming. Palo Alto Networks warned in a report that globally, at least 13 organizations totaling in sectors such as defense, healthcare, energy, and transportation are now confirmed to have been breached. At least 600 U.S. companies are running a vulnerable software that hackers have exploited. That includes universities, state and local governments, and healthcare organizations. It's unclear at this time who is responsible for the breach, but experts say some of the attackers' tactics overlap with those used by a suspected Chinese hacking group. Beijing denies conducting hacking operations, but cybersecurity has been a regular source of tension in U.S.-China relations for years. And now, in lighter news, holiday lights are popping up across the country, from the nation's capital to New York's Rockefeller Center. On Capitol Hill, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi presided over the lighting of the Capitol Christmas tree, saying the tree is a testament to its special ability to unite us in comfort and joy, no matter who we are or where we are from. And that spirit inspires us tonight as we continue to battle the pandemic. The tree will shine every night until the new year, starting from sundown to 11 p.m. And over at the Rockefeller Center, crowds gathered to witness the lighting of the Christmas tree. 50,000 multicolored LED lights shine on the tree, and at the top, a star weighing in at 900 pounds. This year's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree is a 79-foot tall, 46-foot wide Norway spruce from Elkton, Maryland. And now, before we end, Home Alone fans have a shot at renting out this house from the movie for one night this month. Airbnb says it will open booking for the Chicago area home on December 7th. The stay is scheduled for the 12th. Nabbing the overnight will likely be difficult, but the stay only costs $25. This offer coincides with the release of a new movie in the series called Home Sweet Home Alone. The first movie, Home Alone, came out in 1990. It featured Macaulay Culkin as a young boy left to protect his house from two buffoonish burglars. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.